Good evening, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Monday, August 18th, 2025. As always, my thoughts in this video are mine alone, and making any decisions regarding Erin and other tropical waves coming, please consult the National Hurricane Center and your local weather officials for the latest information for where you are. Also, before we do get started, if you haven't been here before, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon to get all daily tropical weather updates here on the channel, including live stream coverage of any landfalling tropical storm or hurricane near you in the next 24 to 36 hours if necessary. We don't want to go live, but if we have to, we will certainly do that. So we're nearly at the peak of hurricane season, not entirely. And what we have here is a lot going on out there in the tropics, as we discussed a couple of days ago in our live stream, as well as in my video today. We have Major Hurricane Erin now below a Category 4 hurricane with 125-mile-an-hour winds, but it is still a very dangerous hurricane nonetheless, spinning about there pretty quickly. And then, of course, here comes another tropical wave that had come off of Africa nearly a couple of days ago. And then now, newly dubbed from the National Hurricane Center, another tropical wave that is moving off of Africa. So there is just a lot to talk about in tonight's video or live stream. Video, once this is done, it will be in video format. And this is typically when we start seeing things really ramp up in the tropics. Right about the 20th of August, in a couple of days, in theory, we'll start seeing more activity. But right now, we're roughly close to that now as it is. And that's why we're seeing all of this activity when the Atlantic typically wakes up from its typical quiet period, usually in June and July, usually the quiet months. So we're going to talk about Erin first, since it's the most important hurricane that we need to discuss, as this is going to be threatening the eastern United States with storm surge watches, warnings, and tropical storm watches out for that area. And then we'll get to our tropical disturbances towards the end of the discussion. Here's a closer zoomed in view on Major Hurricane Erin here. And as we can see that the system is losing its organization here due to that northwesterly vertical wind shear that we are seeing. I know it might seem very hard to tell, but there is vertical wind shear on this system. In fact, NOAA did indicate that the vortex is somewhat tilted off towards the southeast, all because of this flow coming in out of the northwesterly direction. But this vertical wind shear is only going to be temporary, and we should see the shear back away temporarily, for which Erin may re-strengthen a little bit more before it really begins to fall apart gradually. But you can see that shear here, very lopsided hurricane with most of the convection and showers and thunderstorms to the south and southeast of the center. Here's a here's a recon mission that is being conducted right now from NOAA. And as we can see, let me zoom in here so you all can see this even better. So they did find definitely some major hurricane force winds here with, again, 120 to 125 miles an hour. Wouldn't be surprising if we do get locally strong wind maximums here close to 130 miles an hour. So this remains an exceptionally powerful, dangerous hurricane. Even so, it is not a Category 5 or a Category 4 anymore. This has a very large wind field. It's going to be about the size of the wind field more than just the intensity this go around. Other than other hurricanes, you focus more on the intensity and not so much of the wind field, because as you can see here, hurricane force winds are extremely large with this. In fact, all the way out here, the plane did find winds that are about 70 to 75 miles an hour, even 80 miles an hour. So this goes to show you that hurricane force winds from the center here are very large. This is one of the largest wind field type hurricanes that we have witnessed in quite some time, probably since Sandy, perhaps, that had a very unusually large wind field. So keep that in mind. Weakening here, it doesn't matter. It's going to be weakening overall over the next few days, but don't really let that surprise you, because again, this wind field is very large and we will see tropical storm force winds probably right along the coast of North Carolina. So we can see what the shear has done here. I know this is kind of glitchy out. This is new data from I wish I can pause this for you, but you can see here that the northwestern eye wall has eroded away from the microwave pass that we had, with only a little bit of that eye wall that remains to the southeast of the system. And you could faintly see here that the low level center is right here. I know it's very, very, very hard to tell, but if you look very closely here, we have a low-level center, and the mid-level center is right here, and that's where we have our eye wall that remains in place. This is showing us that the system is dealing with about 20 to 25 knots of vertical wind shear out of the northwest, and again, that will continue for at least another 24 to 36 hours. Or actually 12 to 18 hours. My bad. I got my days mixed up. But once it clears that shear vector, we should see strengthening and reorganization only at a very modest pace. We're not seeing any more rapid intensification. I don't think that's just going to happen because of how large the wind field here is with Erin. Speaking of wind field, here's a look at the HAVS-B hurricane model forecast. And as we can see here, tropical storm force winds do extend pretty far out from the center. In fact, if we do a measurement here right now, tropical storm force winds on the order of almost 300 nautical miles out, which is pretty large. On the northeastern side, the winds are even larger out there at about 315 nautical miles. So this is a very large wind field nonetheless. Now, how does this evolve over the next several days, or over the next couple of days, I should say? So in 48 hours, and again, do not get carried away when you hear the term weakening here. There is still hurricane force winds here, but look at how large these tropical storm force winds actually are here. This is very, very big by all means. In fact, the center is pretty far offshore, and yeah, the tropical storm force winds are almost touching North Carolina here. And when we do an actual measurement here of the circulation, from the center to the outer skirts of this, about 380 miles out, or nautical miles, 410 on the northeastern side, southeastern side about 410. So this is a very, very, very large wind field by all means. And this is going to continue to expand as this moves further north. And again, just how close this gets and how much of this wind field transits and eclipses North Carolina will be very important, because as you know, winds that are sustained between about 40 to 50 miles an hour would lead to a lot of storm surge problems. We would be also looking at a lot of coastal flooding, maybe even some heavier rain bands along to go with this system. Also along to go with very, very rough, dangerous surf as well. So keep that in mind. If you're doing anything this for your Wednesday and Thursday, keep that in mind, that there is going to be a lot of problems along the Carolina coast. Even so, this is going to be a fish storm. And I did see in my comments section in my previous video saying people, actually there was a couple of comments saying, oh, this is going to be a fish storm, David. It's nothing to be concerned about. Let's ignore this. It's not going to be a big deal at all. That is really foolish. That really is, because this is going to be a big deal. We are talking about surf. We're talking about coastal flooding, coastal impacts. Maybe if you are well inland of the coast here, like in central Virginia, central North Carolina, maybe it won't impact you very much. But if you're along the coast, it's going to be a different story here, unfortunately. And this wind field continues to grow even bigger here. And even so, now let's actually go back right about here. Now, even so, you do get tropical storm force sustained winds here. Wind gusts could be on the order of hurricane force. And that is because hurricane force low-level winds do penetrate Cape Hatteras by Thursday morning. And you, again, look at how large this wind field is. This is humongous. by all means. And if you look just at the low levels of the atmosphere, tropical storm force winds here in the low levels extend almost 800 nautical miles out from the center. So actually, some of the tropical storm force wind gusts, where's Bermuda here? There is Bermuda. Man, it is very hard to see Bermuda. There you go. There's Bermuda. Yeah, look at this. Bermuda getting near hurricane force wind gusts, perhaps with this system. Look how big that thing is. It's a monster. And even tropical storm force wind gusts probably along the northeastern coast, say like New York City, perhaps Long Island, and even perhaps Cape Cod as well. Even so, your sustained winds are not going to be tropical storm force. Those will come down with wind gusts with some of the outer banding or any air being forced down from higher levels. That can come down with wind gusts. So keep that in mind. Some of the taller buildings here actually do go up to almost 1,000 feet above the surface. So you could end up seeing tropical storm force wind gusts with this. So yeah, a big monster storm to track here, and it is still going to be a strong storm, even out to 5 days here. Probably going to be a hurricane still with those low-level winds and wind gusts, and the pressure there not coming up very much. Now, of course, different models show different things. This has a slightly less aggressive wind field on the halves A, but still in the low levels of the atmosphere. Again, very large wind field. That is why the NHC has issued tropical storm watches out. Even so, in theory, people think, oh, it's a fish storm. It is a fish storm, but there will be impacts. So now, how close is this going to get to the coast? Everybody's concerned about Erin now that there are tropical storm watches out for the Cape Hatteras coast. Well, when we look at the icon model, what is known as the German model, let's play this through right about here. You can see sustained winds of about 40 to 50 miles an hour along the coast. But again, the majority of these stronger winds will be offshore. That is hurricane force wind or sustained winds. But you can see even look at off the coast of New York, and look at this off the coast of North Carolina, Virginia, if you are in New Jersey, as well as Delaware, Maryland, Chesapeake Bay, getting some really strong winds with this. Now, the icon does not do as good of a job at simulating the winds on land, but it gives us a pretty good idea that there will be some stronger breezes as this passes its way to your east. And as this continues to move through, you can see winds coming in out of the north off of New York, as well as, say, if you are in perhaps Cape Cod here, sustained winds anywhere between 25 to 40 miles an hour. So yeah, some pretty strong winds associated with this system. But the good news about this system is there does not look to be any significant rainfall. Most of the rainfall will be off the coast here of the eastern seaboard, which is good. It's only going to be the wind, and it's only going to be the surf that is going to be very high associated with this. All right. So that is that. As we look at different models, though, let's look at the European model. Let's see how close this actually gets to the coast here. And you can see really, really close with that circulation. If we look at prior model runs, it was a little bit further to the east. The prior run of that, it was further east. So there has been this trend over the last several model runs that this has been getting closer and closer to North Carolina as well as Virginia. And look at, see these winds right here? These are on the order of about, say, 15 to 20 miles an hour out of the northerly direction. It's just along the coast here that we'll see perhaps tropical storm force winds. Since there's, of course, no land to protect the wind here, it's going to be straight onshore, and that's why winds will be elevated for sure along the coast there of the mid-Atlantic. And then this, of course, moves offshore, but still brings in some gusty winds right along the coast here of the Northeast. Looking at the GFS model now, this has also been getting a little bit closer in recent model runs. So again, tropical storm-like conditions cannot be ruled out for sure. Long to go with those wind gusts. Let's play this through right about here. Yeah, see? So tropical storm force wind gusts for sure up to about 50 to 60 miles an hour. On the Euro, it is very similar here with wind gusts up to maybe 60 to almost 70 miles an hour. So again, enough to really cause a lot of damage and a lot of problems there with the system. All right, and let's go back. So that's the system as it moves offshore. Now let's talk about the surf with this, because the surf is going to be very, very high because, again, we're talking about a very large wind field that this is going to be exerting. So let's go and take a look at this. Now, some of you were saying I was over exaggerating. I was going a little too high on my wave predictions. I made it clear in my video that these are maximum individual wave heights, okay? With some of the sets, some of the biggest sets could have some of the biggest waves, all right? And I don't believe there will be wave heights of over 50 feet along the coast. That's not going to be possible, but certainly well in excess of 20 to maybe 30 feet. That's going to be enough to cause a lot of coastal impacts, some coastal flooding, maybe some pier damage, as well as jetty damage. So if you have a boat in a harbor, just keep that in mind. We're looking at some very, very rough seas and a lot of problems, maybe even some, again, pier damage and harbor problems. So you can see these waves are going to be increasing, especially over the Carolina coast, and those waves get much higher by the time we go into, say, Wednesday and into Thursday. As you can see here, wave heights on the order along the coast looks to be about 20 or so feet. Now, if we look at different models, so let's actually look at this first. I don't know why I had that tab there. We'll look at that here in a second with the maximum, but here's your significant wave heights, more of your what I think is going to happen. And you can see here 10 to 15 foot waves along the Florida coast, as well as the Carolinas. But look at, again, Cape Hatteras could see wave heights up to 20 to 25 feet with some breakers that are on the order of about, say, about 30 to almost 35 feet, which, again, is enough to cause a lot of problems. And those waves are going to be really big all the way throughout maybe Friday, even into Saturday, especially for the Northeast here. Excuse me. As that hurricane remains very strong. Now, the maximum individual wave height here, you can see waves are going to be very, very big too. When you look at some certain sets here, waves on the order of about 20 to even 30 feet along the Northeast coast. Even the shelf waters could see some really big breakers as well. Okay, so keep that in mind. Waves are going to be something with this hurricane, and that leads to this. This is a rip current forecast for you all that was hoping that I would show this in my video. I was trying to look for it and do a lot of research, couldn't find it, so I tried again tonight and I was able to find it. And you can see here, anything in red is there is a high to extreme risk for rip currents. All right, please take this seriously, especially if you are from Georgia all the way up into Virginia. That's where the rip current risk will be the greatest because the winds are going to be the strongest. The waves are going to be their highest. Florida here, you are under a moderate to high risk for rip currents, but you can say thank you to all these islands here, the Bahamas, that are going to block some of that wave energy. So like if you're in Miami, Florida, and you're going to the beach, your surf should not be a big problem at all, especially down here in Key West. But the further north you go along the coast here, it is looking pretty bad. We're talking significant rip current risk, coastal flooding, and that sort of thing. Now, let's take a look here at our surge forecast, because the surge is going to be really high with this. Depending on exactly where you're at, like Cape Hatteras is going to be seeing the highest surge. On the order here, it looks to me anywhere between 2 to 4 feet. So that is going to be enough to cause some minor flooding and maybe even more significant flooding in storm surge prone areas. So keep that in mind here. Pamlico and as well as Pongo rivers, Neuse and Bay rivers, 1 to 2 feet. Cape Lookout as well as Duck. And if you are Paramore Island, please take that into consideration. Storm surge is going to be somewhat elevated with this hurricane. So here's a look at the chances of tropical storm force winds. This is as of the 11 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. And this is a great example, and they did state it in their discussion, and I'll show you that discussion here, is don't so much focus on the exact chances of tropical storm force winds, because this is assuming that the wind field is not really that big, and I will show you that here in their discussion in a second. And so therefore, chances of tropical storm force winds here are generous, or conservative, I should say, but I would not be surprised if those chances shoot up very quickly at the last minute. So right now you have a 5 to 20% chance in eastern North Carolina, parts of eastern Virginia, to seeing tropical storm force winds, as well as Bermuda. Now, this is a very, very big wind field. Big chances coming through these areas, all right, especially for Bermuda and the eastern seaboard. And that would arrive by Wednesday morning all the way through Wednesday night, and even perhaps into very early Thursday morning for the rest of the extreme Northeast. Like if you're in New York, New Jersey, those areas, okay? So looking at the latest NHC forecast as of the 11 o'clock hour, the advisory package, there is a tropical storm watch out for eastern North Carolina. So that highlights what I just talked about, is that if there's a tropical storm watch, there is a chance for tropical storm force winds and wind gusts enough to cause a lot of problems, like power outages, down trees, seeing some flooding due to high water levels from storm surge. So take that into consideration. And look where the center is. The center is over here, well north of the Bahamas, but yet look at still a tropical storm warning and tropical storm watches out because of how large this tropical storm force wind field is. This is extremely, extremely large. All right, this is not small at all. And I would not be surprised if the tropical storm force wind field ends up being something like this. Once this storm gets further to the north. All right, we see a lot of orange and a lot of red, perhaps, because the wind field is expanding. And then this could be a hurricane all the way through Friday into Saturday. Yeah, nothing in the way of any extratropical transition until it gets way over here on the side of the map. So this is going to be, one, a high ACE producer, and two, this is going to remain a fairly strong hurricane for the next 3 days, a major hurricane, that is. So take that into consideration, and then remaining a hurricane for the foreseeable future over the next 5 days. Yeah, this is going to be a big problem to track for at least another few days. And then by the time we get into Thursday, we will have to really start focusing on our other waves coming off of Africa. So speaking of that, any questions before we move on? Any questions, anybody? Because we do need to talk about what's behind Erin, because there is a couple of other areas that we are going to need to focus on. And actually, let's go to the National Hurricane Center and bring this up for you all. Okay, so let's go to, where is it? Okay, there it is. That's what we want. Yes, we're going to be talking about the next potential storm. That's what everybody, I'm sure, is here to listen to, but we cannot ignore Erin, all right? We just cannot. I wish this thing was headed northeast already, then we could ignore Erin, but this thing is still headed northwest, and it's been trending a little closer on our recent models. So that is why we are going to still be talking about Erin for another couple of days in my live streams and videos. Yeah, I'm done talking about Erin. Believe me, I'm tired of tracking this hurricane. This is like the 31st advisory. Yeah, 31st advisory on this major hurricane. All right, so let's see. No questions. Any huge impacts in Ocean City, Maryland? The impacts in Ocean City, Maryland do not look to be quite as bad as areas further south, especially Cape Hatteras, because the way Cape Hatteras is shaped, it really exacerbates because it's pointing closer out. If you think about right about in here, the storm as it approaches is going to be making its closest approach to Cape Hatteras, which means the impacts there will be strongest. So all right. So let's move on. Let's talk about what's going on out here. So, of course, we want to focus in on our tropical waves that are coming off of Africa. And one of those waves could actually develop into a tropical depression or tropical storm, could become Fernand. There's a lot of people already spreading that around on social media that we are going to potentially see our next named storm, which is certainly true here. And then another system behind that we're going to need to watch, but that one does not look as concerning as the one out in front of it. So looking at the GFS model here, this is the vorticity plot, and this is a great way to visualize what areas we are looking at here on the map. So of course, here is, basically here is Erin, and here is going to be our next system that we need to pay close attention to. So over the next couple of days here, there goes Erin moving along the eastern seaboard of the United States. So that includes for North Carolina. And then, of course, there is our tropical wave that everyone is watching closely. We'll see if the GFS is actually onto something here at showing some development. And then here's another tropical wave. And then here is more mischief coming off of Africa. So this is a very busy period that we're entering in right now of the Atlantic hurricane season. So while Erin moves out and becomes an extratropical system, it actually falls apart here eventually as it rounds that ridge. Quite frankly, it never does a full transition into an extratropical cyclone and remains actually somewhat detached as a tropical storm, or if not a hurricane. Look what comes on though, okay? And some people have been already saying that this is going to be a hurricane out there. I am not going that far yet. There's a lot of uncertainty to work out here in the modeling, but we can see here over the next 7 days, this would be for August the 25th, 2025. So yeah, by Monday afternoon, we would be dealing with maybe a tropical depression here on the GFS. And then look at how close this gets to the Carolina coast, similar to where Erin is impacting, but this would be much closer. And this is a 10-day forecast, and that's where I stop it. I am not going to go beyond 10 days because where it has this headed into is New York City, okay, as a major hurricane. I just do not believe that. I'm not buying that right now because there's a lot of uncertainty in the GFS model world at this given time. Okay, and then look at what we have over here in the Gulf. That recently popped up here on the GFS. So maybe 2 things to watch out there down the road. We shall see to see if that actually ends up being the case. Because, of course, if there's 2 areas to watch, man, I'm telling you, we're going to be very busy here. I'm actually going to we are going to be extremely busy here on the channel through the end of August. There's no way I'm going to take a day off here. There's just no way about it. The only day off I see me taking is probably on the 31st of August because our family is having a camp out. More on that in another day when we get closer to that. But either way, we will be here tracking this every day and seeing what's going to happen. But yeah, just showing us right here a potential pretty big system out there developing on the GFS model. And this is the 18Z run. We're going to wait for our 0Z model run to come in. And actually, let's see what that actually shows. And this is a little further back and a little further to the south. So again, we will have to just wait and see how this all progresses in future model runs. Let's take a look here at the European model deterministic forecast. This is the 12Z forecast, and we can see again, a system does try to get consolidated near Hispaniola, near the Dominican Republic, but like any other system, it just goes out to sea. And the European model thinks that that's what is going to end up happening, with no systems after that developing out there in the deep tropics into early September. But that does not mean that September will not be busy. Of course, We're going to enter a lull here probably for about a week or two because of the MJO state on where is it going to head. Is it going to go back into the Atlantic later on? We just don't know because it's going to be more disorganized. Now, of course, looking at the icon model, let's play that through. The icon model does not show any tropical. Actually, it shows it right here, trying to develop into something a little bit more significant, but it does fail to develop nonetheless here as we enter a more unfavorable period by the very, 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 very end of August into early September. Now, looking at the GEFS ensemble forecast here, we can see that there is Erin with all the red tracks, and here is our next disturbance that the GEFS ensemble is picking up. But notice how a lot of these are in the dark blue and turquoise blue color, indicating a weak signal here, but multiple members are picking up some development here in about 10 days across the Leeward Islands here of the Caribbean, as well as possibly a threat here eventually to the Bahamas. We don't know where this is going because we do not know where and when this is actually going to develop. So a lot of people are already saying this is going to go out to sea, 100% chance. I'll just be honest, you're not a forecaster, you're not a meteorologist, I'm assuming, and we cannot jump to conclusions and assume that things are always going to go out to sea. Not that I'm wishing for landfall. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But we just cannot jump onto a conclusion and say, oh, it's going to avoid land, David. I see it there. Because clearly, this is getting pretty close. And we all thought that, oh, this is going to impact and go out towards Bermuda, right? Remember, like 3 or 4 days ago, that's what we were thinking. Nope. It is going to be very close to the United States. And that's why we cannot always rely on ensemble forecasts 10 to 15 days out. It's just not going to be an accurate forecast if we just rely on that. So the European ensemble forecast does show a very big spread here, anywhere from like over here all the way into the Gulf. So a big cone of uncertainty still remains here. And there is a still outside possibility that this does go into the Gulf as much as it goes into the southwestern Atlantic. Okay, so I wanted to make sure you all are aware of that. All right. And basically, that's really all I had to say. I wanted to cover Erin in this live stream for you all. And we're also here to watch the GFS model too, to see what it's currently showing. And right now, it looks a lot broader on the GFS model. But we do have to really watch this. Right there. Yeah. That's what we need to pay close attention to, because that is definitely a tropical disturbance that might just hang on to for its dear life. We'll see about that. It does get absorbed and just kind of falls apart because of the unfavorable-ish background state. There's not a whole lot of vertical. Well, there is actually some vertical wind shear on the system, of course, on top of it. This is a broad wave right down here. This is a broader wave right now on the GFS. This looks like it's going to fall apart. That's why I'm not too concerned about it, even so the NHC has it highlighted, and then maybe more activity coming off of Africa. But there is Erin on the map, and this did trend a little bit further to the west, just a little bit, And you can see it right there, just a teeny wee bit. By the way, if you all haven't been here before and you do find these tropical weather discussions and videos very detailed, informative, helpful, and life-saving, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps out a lot. It really does. We are actually close to already 52.4 thousand subscribers, so I want to say thank you all to supporting the channel thus far. The icon has a Cat 5 off the North Carolina coast on the 0Z. Yeah, well, I'm not trusting that. I am really not trusting that. I'm being honest. Yeah, there's no Cat 5 off the North Carolina coast. It's not going to happen. There's no way in the dear Lord that's actually going to happen. Actually, I did want to show you all the discussion from the National Hurricane Center. By the way, this is that area that we wanted to show you, that yellow area, that lemon coming off of Africa. And then there's that orange area that the NHC has highlighted. We'll see if that gets to red, but I doubt it. It's probably not going to be upgraded anymore. And then there is Erin on the map. So let's take a look at the discussion here really quickly. And it's all about that tropical chance, okay? Those chances of tropical storm force winds on that graphic that I showed you earlier. So you can see here, Erin's expanding. So this is another thing you need to be aware of with Erin's wind field, is that Erin's expanding wind field will result in rough oceanic conditions over much of the western Atlantic. It should be noted that the 34 and 50 knot wind speed probabilities beyond 36 hours in the text and graphical products are likely underestimating the risk of those winds occurring. This is because the forecast for wind field of Erin is considerably larger than average compared to the wind field used to derive the wind speed probability product. So I wanted to make that very clear in this live stream that that the wind field is larger than the chances are. So that's why I'm saying that the chances of tropical storm force winds will be on the increase as we go into the next couple of days, because this is a very large hurricane. It is extremely dangerous. And people, I'm sure, are already turning their back on it like it's not a big deal at all. And this is a big deal. Even so, the rainfall is not going to be that significant. The wind is going to be pretty big with this hurricane. And the pressures are going to be very low to support a major hurricane off the coast of the Carolinas. So that's something to take into consideration. I'm doing very good tonight. Thank you for asking. I do appreciate it. I'm doing very well tonight. Actually, we're waiting for the GFS model to render to see what that next disturbance looks like. But it doesn't look like it's... Might try to group up somewhere over here. It is definitely a broad tropical wave, and it's gone a little lesser in recent model runs. So a little surprised by that. But at the same time, not too surprised. But it is an area we definitely need to be watching. No more intensification with Erin. Erin is still going to potentially re-intensify, as we can see here on the intensity forecast. It is expected to weaken just a little bit over the next 12 to 24 hours, but then re-intensify just a little bit in the next 2 days. This is when it's going to be getting closer and closer to North Carolina. So a high-end Category 3 major hurricane, and then after 72 hours, it is going to fall apart and become a Category 1 by the time we go into day 4 and day 5. Yeah, this storm is going to be epic for sure. And that is why, even so this is going to be offshore, it does not mean it's going to not be a problem. So we're waiting for additional model runs to come in, or more frames from the GFS to show us what our next tropical wave might be doing here. If this does not develop, though, out here, this next tropical wave will probably enter a a calm period for at least 1 or 2 weeks. You need to check your DMs. Okay. What do I need to check my DMs for, Tony? So I sent you a message. I did not get a message from you. I did not get a message from you at all. Yeah. Yeah, I did not get a message from you, bud. A personal message? I did not get that either. I do not have any messages from you. Nope. Nothing. So let's see what the latest GFS model shows. No new frames coming in. No new frames. Did you get my friend request? No, I did not. What's up, Easy? What's up, Easy?
What's up?
Yeah, we're watching the GFS, and so far, the wave is actually broader, not stronger.
Yeah, I've seen that, especially with the Hurricane Hunters mission. They're finding pretty good winds pretty far out from the
No,
center
with the
circulation.
next tropical wave.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So we're just waiting and waiting. Saying that Katrina missed us completely in Florida. Yeah, we're not going to assume for anything right now. There we go. I got it now. I got it, Tony. I got it. Sorry about that. Apparently, I had it on ignore, so. The eye wall is... Yeah. So as we do take a look at this really quickly, we can see System looks a little tilted. You can definitely not see an eye anymore with that, but it is still a very intense hurricane. This is a very large system still. People in Florida get excited a lot about hurricanes. Yeah, until it hits them, then they're not going to be excited. Yeah, this is going to be large. Fire ant. In fact, if we look at the Hurricane Hunter data, yeah, that's hurricane force winds. Anything in purple. Wow, they actually found major hurricane force winds even. Man, this really has expanded. Even out here, they found a little bit of 100 and that's like 100 and or 96 knots, so almost near major hurricane intensity. This far out, it's not compact anymore. This is not a compact system. Even so, the pressure has come up by 4 millibars. Again, weakening does not mean the wind field is like dissipating. The spin is going down. No. Yeah, they said it was going to explode and it did. Yeah, I know, Tony H, right? What do you think about that when it got down to like 915 millibars? Again, it pulled a Milton almost. It almost did. Like it went from like a 970 millibar system, 960 that night, all the way down to a 915 millibar in like 5 or 6 hours. Yeah, and this is not moving very fast, and it is still moving generally towards the northwest. Man, it is moving quite slow, though. It's not in no hurry to get out of here at all. What are the chances of this hitting the United States directly? There's a 0% chance of it hitting the United States directly. However, the wind field of tropical storm force winds. So yeah. So that's why I'm talking about this. And I'm sure a lot of people are gonna start kind of downplaying this system. I am not downplaying Erin at all, just because of how large that wind field is. And you can literally see how much purple there is. And think about it right now. This is how big it is now. This is how big it's going to be in like 60 hours. So it's still going to expand this wind field even more than what it is now. Is the next one going to hit Florida though? Right now the GFS does not even have any clue if it even is going to develop. We have seen models all over the place on that next tropical wave. You can see how much difference it has had. And now it looks like it is trending with the European model, having this pretty much go out to sea. That's exactly what it's going to do in this flow. It's going to go out to sea. I'm not as I'm still concerned about it, but I need more model data, and we need to get something to consolidate first and then make an actual forecast on it. But the way the GFS model has trended over the last 4 or 5 model runs, it looks like this is going to not be as big of a threat as what we initially thought. Even so, the NHC does have a 60% chance. In theory, this could go south and not where the deterministic forecast shows. My concern is if it enters the Gulf. Yeah, well, if it enters the Gulf, it could go boom boom, and that's because the water temperatures are really warm. However, I don't like going beyond 10 days, but look what the GFS wants to sniff out. Literally, another fantasy storm in the Gulf right there. That's why, and it wasn't even there in the last run. So that's why I'm not putting any money into it, because it's not going to likely happen. So, yeah. So let's see what the latest GFS model shows. That shows maybe some consolidation right here with the vorticity plot. Let's see what the Canadian actually shows. Oh, Canadian's only out to 5 days. Yeah, there goes that tropical wave right here. That broader one, nothing. There's nothing on that. Which again, I'm a bit surprised that the NHC actually has upped their chances to as high as they are now. They're probably seeing something that we're not seeing, I would assume. Huh, interesting. The artificial intelligence wants some sneaky development in the Gulf in its 18Z run. Interesting. Interesting. But we're going to need to watch. We're going to have to watch. Man, what is this model on? Look at another one. Looks like something may try to get going here. And then, of course, our wave coming off of Africa. Wow, this is going to be an interesting run. It is going to be interesting. This is only day 7. This is only day 7 that it has went out to. But yeah, Tony H, if you're planning to go to the ocean in New Jersey or New York, watch out. Rip current risk is going to be on the increase. And actually, just for you, let's take a look here at our... where is it? Where is it on here? Oh, there we go. So looking at actual wave heights, those are going to be on the increase along the New York coast. Like we just said, 10 to 15 feet, maybe a little higher, maybe up to 18 feet at most. But some breakers from that system, some of the largest sets could contain wave heights up to about 30 feet. I'm good. Don't need to go. That's good. Yup, coastal flooding for sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Florida guy, 1919. I do appreciate it. David's in this world. Well, I'm the only one. New Jersey impacts. So as far as the New Jersey impacts go with this, Erin, let's take a look. Right now, no significant rainfall is expected, and any rainfall you actually get is going to be from a frontal boundary. There's going to be a frontal boundary that goes through, but actually, Erin is not going to cause a whole lot of problems for the Northeast, although I want to mention surf is going to be the big problem. And here's a look at the GFS, another way of looking at it. You can see the Northeast here, going to have some really high surf. 15 on this one, significant wave height on the GFS is much higher than the Euro, showing wave heights probably even over 15 to almost 20 feet high with this system. Even so, again, your wind or your no rainfall, it's just going to be coastal impacts and some of those strong winds coming in out of the northerly direction. Part of that pressure gradient associated with the hurricane. Can someone send a super chat? You're asking, Kathleen. Well, it's up to the person, not up to me. Yeah, we haven't had any super chats this live stream. Oddly enough, usually we get a couple. But hey, that's fine. So there is a system here that does try to consolidate eventually. That's the one that's coming off of Africa. And then there's two others out here. Some tricky development. By the way, if you all haven't been here before and you absolutely do like these detailed tropical weather live streams, video updates on the tropics, as well as live streaming coverage if there's a hurricane or tropical storm to make landfall in the next 24 to 36, even 48 hours, please don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't already, hit the bell icon to get all tropical weather updates, live coverage, and leave a like and leave a comment once this becomes a DVR type video. Thank you so much, Lee Morse. I do appreciate it. Boy, I'll be honest though, and transparent, got a lot of rude comments on my last video though today concerning my thumbnail, saying it's clickbait. This is going to be a fish storm. It's not going to be a big storm at all. I think that is, again, foolish because this is going to be a storm. Thank you so much for the $2 donation. I appreciate that. Thank you, Void, for the $1 donation. Thank you, Ken, for the $2 donation. Thank you for sharing this info. Of course, I have no problem sharing it. Thank you. Wow, all these donations. Thank you for the $5 donation. Thank you for the $2 donation, Logan. I appreciate that so much. Today's stream was 750 to almost 800 people. Also respect the rules. Yep. Going to be a landfalling storm, though, just a bunch of rain and wind from it. Again, this is not going to make landfall. I'm pretty confident this is not going to make landfall. And that's the crazy thing. Some people disagree with me and say, oh, it's going to be a fish storm and not cause problems. And other people over here are saying, oh, it's going to make landfall and cause a lot of problems. I guess we can't please everybody, you know. Thank you for the $5 donation, Kimberly. I appreciate it very much. Going blue and green in the chat tonight. I love it. And also like. Yeah, hit that like button. Thank you so much, everyone, for the donation train. Yeah. Not so thank you so much for the tropical wave train out there coming off of Africa. That's going to keep everybody watching my channel and also watching the tropics. Thank you, Easy, for the $2 donation. Thank you, Void. Let it continue, the train. Well, that's all up to you guys if you want to keep the train rolling. Because honestly, about 75% of the donations will actually go towards our live stream coverage equipment that we will be doing when it comes to a landfalling hurricane. I mean, if you guys think I'm joking, Easy can back me up on this one. We are going to be going live for probably 1.5 to 2 straight days. 2 straight days on a landfalling system. So if you thought that, oh, we only went live for 12 hours on Milton last year, 12 hours ain't anything. We are going to try to pull off up to 1.5 days to even in rare occasions, if it's going to be like a category 5 with 180 mile an hour winds or 190, then we would pull off a 2-day marathon of live coverage nonstop. And that is because we have Easy over here. We actually have Nate. That will make that all possible. And actually, if you want to talk a little bit about that, Easy, yeah, tell our viewers what we actually have going on behind the scenes.
We have a lot of stuff going on back behind the scenes. I mean, how long were we up, David, last night? It was pretty late. We were talking about some stuff, preparing some equipment in case, even for the next system, if it makes landfall, we're going to be prepared. We're going to have a storm chaser out there doing all the dirty work while we sit back and relay the info. But that costs money, and we gotta, all your donations, they go towards that for sure. I mean, so really, if you feel compelled to donate and you want to see some improvement to the stream, hey. But we have a lot of stuff going on, especially with Nate. He's gonna be storm chasing out there if anything goes near Florida. So I'm excited for that.
And yeah, if it's safe enough, he gets the eye of the storm as well. So, and I'm not doing this for an ego. I know some of you out there, maybe like Tony H, says, oh, it's David's ego. It's David's ego. No, we're actually we're being very much honest about this. We are actually going to make it happen. We are going to make it happen. Live beach cams. Someone about live beach cams, Surf X Avion Pier. If we do go live now about that, so this is going to be close enough to where I guess we could go live probably for about maybe 6 hours. It's just going to be about, yeah, actually I will be able to go live because it's going to be Wednesday night. So we could probably pull one off with some cameras, but I'll have to figure out on how we're going to do this. Thank you for becoming a member. Well, back in the day, Tony, back in the day, it was like 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe it was like 5 or 6 years ago. It was way back in the day. Maybe I'm wrong, but sorry to put words in your mouth there. I'm so sorry. But someone said I had a huge ego back in the day. Thank you, Alex, for the $20 donation. I do appreciate that so much. Yeah, so the GFS thinks that there is going to be a system that does develop here still, but it's further east, which is better news than the 18Z GFS, which had a threatening system hitting New York in beyond the 10-day mark. But yeah, thank you, Alex, for that generosity of $20. And I am being transparent with you guys. The donations that you guys send do go towards the hotspot to make this all possible. The staff that are behind the scenes to making this all possible. Because if it wasn't for Easy and Nate, it would be just a 12-hour stream. And I would have to figure out on how to do it. So you guys are very generous, and I absolutely appreciate it.
David, I think it's a good time to plug the merch. I mean, if you guys don't want to just donate and you want to buy something from us, we have a whole merch section that I just posted in chat there. If you want to cop some David Schlauer merch, the finest out there, go buy some. We got hoodies, we got t-shirts, we got mouse pads, we got mugs, I think, right?
Yeah, whatever you see on the screen here is what merchandise we actually have. All made.
Go buy yourself some good clothing.
Yeah, and it's all designed by Nate and Easy over here. So, yeah, big round of applause goes to them for this. Yeah. Thank you, Void, for the $2 donation. Have a great rest of your stream, brother. Thank you so much. Okay, so someone said, how can we donate, though? There is a donate button below if you're on a phone or if you're on any tablet. If you're on a TV, I don't know, honestly. But if you're on a computer, tablet, it should be under the chat. So when you're chatting and saying hi like I am, there's a dollar bill sign. Then there's like a like button. Like you can do hearts, you can do emojis, and then of course you can insert one of these, like what I just did. And then there's like a little money icon right there. You should see it. I know YouTube makes everything impossible, don't they? Yeah, there's a dollar bill sign on mobile. All right. Yeah. I haven't used mobile to watch someone stream. It's usually on a computer. So Fire Ant answered that for you guys. Or Tony H. So, yeah. Really not much. We talked about Erin. Little empty tonight with a lot of information. This is going out to sea, which is great. So there's nothing unusual with that. But yeah, it looks like we are going to enter in a more lull period as we go into very late August into September, which fingers crossed about that, because on the 31st of August, I will have a video out every day all the way until the end of August. And of course, to start off September, but going to be pretty busy on Sunday, the 31st, because our family is having a camp out and we're having a water park where we live. So we're gonna have a splash pad. We're gonna have a slip and slide. We're gonna have 2 pools. We're gonna have a water slide. It's going to be crazy. So I have to help with that because we're gonna have a lot of people over. It's gonna be a big old fat late summer party, memorial party. With that, maybe I could invite some of you guys over and I can just spray you all off with water. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, though, Lee Morse, for the $10 donation. Thank you, Alex, again for the $20 donation. I do appreciate that. Where is it? Where is it at? I won't give out the address. It's a little joke, but it's gonna be where I live. I don't want everybody to know where I live. Nah. We're not going to get that far and comfortable. But yeah, that's something I'll have to prep for, but I will have a video out Sunday morning either way. I'll have something out for you guys. Just any live streaming will not occur then because I'll be busy with that. And that's why I'm keeping my fingers crossed that actually if the tropics can settle down around that time, that would be great. Thank you, Mary Ortiz, for the $1 donation, or not $1 donation. Category 1, that's category 1 member. I am going to actually have to do something special for my members. What I was thinking about getting is possibly getting a GoPro camera, one of their latest GoPros, and actually do some time-lapsing of the weather in my area and uploading that for members only here on the YouTube channel. But I'll have to figure that out. It wouldn't happen until like October or November sometime. Cat 5 member here. Well, if you're a member, it will light up in green. Your name will be actually green. And there will be like a little icon next to it letting me know what member you guys are subscribed to. What time does the sun rise and set where you live? What time does the sun... So this time of the year, it sets at 7:57, I think. It sets at 7:57 and it comes up at like 6 something in the morning. Yeah, so it sets at 7:53 p.m. and it comes up at 6:22 in the morning, which is actually nice because I could actually sleep in without the sun shining in my freaking eyes through the window. So that's why I don't like summer, because the days are too long and the sun comes up way too early. When next thing you know, it's time to wake up. Because the sun here comes up at like 5:30 in the morning. And it's like, come on, the sun cannot be up at 5:30 in the morning. Let's just sleep. That's what we were thinking, Fire Ant. Me, Nate, and Easy Peasy, we're looking into doing that, doing some giveaways and stuff. So thank you for letting me know about that. Actually, we probably will have a 75,000 subscriber giveaway and a 100,000 subscriber giveaway when we get to that point. Hello, hello, beautiful. Welcome, welcome. And you say, hi, David. To separate your name, because your name is hello, hello, beautiful. You guys have some crazy YouTube channel names over here. One says NWO 1997. That's the cool thing about YouTube. You can just name yourself anything you want. But a lot of you guys have default YouTube channels, which is embroiled into your account. So you like your actual real name is most likely there, like Logan, Marcus, Heidi over here. Hey, you three. What's up, Rent Incorporation? So yeah, looking at the latest GFS right now, that has rendered all the way through on that system for the Northeast. Yeah, another close call. Another close call. Looks more frontal based-ish as it moves quickly to the Northeast. But that is not 10 days out. Not 10 days out. And that's where the GFS has that system. Can we see Erin on a 3D satellite? Sure. Let's open up the satellite imagery and look at Erin in 3D. It's probably not as picturesque or photogenic as we had a couple of nights ago. My goodness. We won't forget about that when Erin did something that we did not expect. So let's go to Clean IR. Let's go to... Come on. Is it here? Oh, wait. There it is. There's our 3D. There is Erin in 3D tonight. Say hello to Erin. The Bahamas water, so pretty. David, look at recon now. Uh-oh. Probably not good. Probably not good. Let's see. Pressure is at 954, so it went up a little higher. Yeah, it's coming up a little bit. That's to be expected with the vertical wind shear that the system is dealing with right now. So the pressure does continue to come up by another 2 millibars. So there is weakening that is occurring here. But again, I do not want you guys to just say, oh, I'm glad it's weakening, it's a good thing, because this is going to re-strengthen somewhat after the deep layer vertical wind shear backs away in about 18-ish hours. This is what we were forecasting, is that the vertical wind shear would come up a little bit and disrupt the vortex a little bit. This is what we expect to happen. This is not unusual. So again, when you assume that, oh, pressures are going up, good, it's not strengthening at least. The wind field is expanding. All right, the wind field is expanding, getting larger and larger and larger. And that means, honestly, I care more about how large that wind field actually is than the exact intensity, because the exact intensity does not say the whole story. All right. And right here, look at what Tony H said, especially with very large and powerful storms. And if you think this is not large enough, well, here's some fun facts about Hurricane Erin. Once this wind field approaches the mid-Atlantic coast on Wednesday night into Thursday, the wind field will nearly double in size and could rank amongst the top 85th or 95th percentile or percentile on record. Probably about almost as big as Sandy, if I got that one correctly, Tony. Sandy had a very, very large wind field. And guess what? That thing was only a category 1, like a 90-mile-an-hour hurricane at landfall, something like that. And yet, it was the most destructive hurricane, I believe, behind Katrina, or probably exceeding Katrina. Again, oh, it's only a category 1 with 90-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah, that doesn't say the whole story, though. Because imagining this, you could have a category 5 hurricane and have the wind field extremely compact. Remember Milton, folks. Remember Milton. Now, if Milton would have been super, super compact like that when it made landfall in Florida, yes, it would be exceptionally devastating, but more in a more smaller confined area, if that makes sense. It would not be this big old fat wind field that goes out like 300 or 400 miles out from the center, if that makes sense. So let's do a size comparison here. And I want to use Google Earth just to show you all just how big this wind field actually is. I always like teaching you guys something new so you guys can actually get a grasp that, oh, okay, 300 miles is very big. In fact, Easy was telling me one night about my viewership, because we were curious about my viewership, how big is what? And we were talking about, like, David, you got 30,000 views. I'm like, that doesn't seem like a whole lot. I said, well, let's put it into a stadium, like a football stadium. And I was like, wow, that is big. Numbers, your brain gets tricked a little bit. When it comes like, oh, 300 miles in diameter doesn't seem that big until, let's use a state here for reference. So let's just say, for an example, we will use the Northeast here because this is kind of going to clip the Northeast. So let's just say the center of the hurricane hits New York, for an example, okay? Let's go out 300 miles. Look at how big the tropical storm force wind field would expand, possibly even 400 miles out based on expectations from models. That edge of the tropical storm force wind field to the southwest would expand still into North Carolina. All right. And then we go on to the other side of things. This would expand into central, if not northern Maine. All right. So you can kind of think about it like this. Let's draw, oh yeah, we can draw a circle here. So let's draw a circumference area. And let's go out to about, not exact, this is a perfect circle, but the wind field is not perfect, of course. Let's go out to 400 miles. Now you take a look at how big that actually is. Yeah. See? So our system, what I'm trying to tell you is with Milton, you want to know how big the wind field was with Milton? You guys would probably not even believe me when I say this. The wind field with Milton was only, was only about 90 miles in 90 miles in diameter. Yeah, 90 miles in diameter for a Category 5 hurricane. For a Category 5 with 180 plus miles an hour, with a pressure below 900 millibars. Why was it so compact? Well, because there was not a lot of baroclinic energy or baroclinic ascent to interact with it. Especially once, you know, the more eyewall replacement cycles these hurricanes undergo, the wind field expands over time. We saw this with Teddy. We saw this with Sam. We saw this with Laura. We saw this with even Milton after it underwent its eyewall replacement cycle. These wind fields do expand, especially when they interact with a frontal system or baroclinic energy, is what we're about to witness across the Northeast. Once that trough comes off of Canada and it interacts with this thing, the wind field is going to be insanely big. And actually, we could even see this if we zoom in. So let's actually go to halves A and let's zoom in on this system. Look how much purple that is, right? Look how much purple that is on your screen. And you're like, no, that's not believable. Come on. That can't be right. Now, these are low-level winds, but these are hurricane force wind gusts potentially. Thank you, Taco and Chicken, for the $5 donation. I appreciate that very much. By the way, we are only $15 away from $100 in donations tonight, so thank you guys for that. But back to with what I was saying, look at how much purple is on your screen here. And people are saying that, oh, this is going to be a nothing burger, or this is, not everyone is saying that, but there are some people in my comment section that, dude, you're hyping this up, you're causing fear mongering, this is not going to be a storm at all, it's going to stay offshore. Yeah, the center is going to stay offshore, but not its wind field. See, we're getting somewhere. So let's measure this. So right here, this blue line tells us how many miles from the center we are, and look at how far this thing goes. Believe it. See it to believe it, folks. 366 nautical miles out. This side, 313 nautical miles out. But now this side is more of the not so intense side because the storm is moving pretty much to the north at this time. So usually the western side has lesser wind in the direction of motion versus the fat side, which is always going to be to the right of the storm motion. And that's why you have the stronger winds here. But still, some of those winds could wrap all the way around and cause some damage. And look at this, gets even larger. I mean, I've never seen so much purple covering a map like this. Thank you, Alex, for the $10 donation. There's $100. Enjoy the $60. God bless. We're close to 100. We're only 50 cents away, but that's close enough. That is close enough. So thank you for that. So, this is very large, all right? And honestly, I don't like hyping stuff up. You've listened to me for probably how many years? A lot of years, right? I am not the person to hype up stuff unless it needs to be hyped up, all right? Other people out there, other YouTubers, I'm not going to say who, will not take the wind field into consideration, say, oh, it's going to be missing shore. It's not going to be a big problem. Thank you for additional $10 and $15. Thank you guys so much for the donations. Again, these donations do go towards the equipment that my staff behind the scenes will be purchasing. So thank you guys for that so much. So with what I was saying is wind fields have to be taken seriously. We have to consider that. Don't consider the intensity, because yes, this is a 945 millibar system, or even 950 that is. And in someone's head, they're going to say, oh, it's a category 1. Well, look at Florence, look at Sandy. Were they category 5 landfall hurricanes? Were they? Let me know in chat. I'll get with you later. All right, Tony H. Take care, bud. We need a $500 donation. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's expensive. Yeah, see? But yet, what did Sandy do? What did Sandy do? So let's go to Hurricane Sandy really quick. The science behind these wind fields. Hurricane Sandy, right? 2012, right? We remember that. I even vaguely remember that. Category 3, but it was not a category 3 at landfall, right? It wasn't. It was actually an extratropical cyclone in some sense, because there's a triangle, but still it was a category 1 at landfall. And yet the thing caused, let's see. Yeah, this would be the equivalent of almost $100 billion in damage. Yeah, in Canada, 2 were killed in Ontario, and the storm caused an estimated of $100 million in damage. So from a category 1 hurricane, extratropical powerful baroclinic cyclone, yeah, watch out. Don't underestimate the intensity, and don't underestimate the wind field that these hurricanes can cause. In general, yes, the stronger the system, the wind field can get larger, but you have to make up for that space. If you want a category 5 hurricane, your hurricane force winds are going to have to expand a little bit to make room for those category 5 force winds. You know, but think about how small Milton was, and think about how large Sandy was. Yeah, Milton was stronger than Sandy. And you're probably wondering, why is the wind field going to expand with this? Well, again, as I talked about in my videos, it's the baroclinic energy, the upper level ascent, lift in the atmosphere that is going to help this system expand a lot more. And if we actually look at the, let's see here. Where doesn't show us very much here at 500 millibars. But anytime you get a strong hurricane moving into this pattern, especially with this trough that comes down like this, and then you get winds that do this, this up here is what we call our baroclinic outflow jet from the hurricane. So your winds are going to want to do this, right? Because it's heat meeting up with cooler air, and cooler air wants to meet up with warmer air aloft. So what you end up seeing is this very strong baroclinic jet outflow pattern that happens. And this actually tells us that there's colder air up here. You know, it's not warm relative to where it is down here. So there is going to be some baroclinic connection here with the system as it runs into this belt of stronger wind. And that, what that does is that expands this wind field out a lot more. And that is what we're seeing. That is why, even so, this is not, well, this would be a major hurricane close to that. But the wind field is going to be the bigger problem. Honestly, I'm not concerned about how close this is to the coast, but I'm concerned about that wind field touching the coast, that tropical storm force wind field sustained. All right. And a lot of you are probably like, oh, it's just tropical storm force winds, whatnot. It's not a big deal at all. All right. It's not a big deal for you, but it's a big deal for me, because my job is, at the end of the day, to save people's lives, to warn about a tropical system impacting them. Because again, how close does this get, right? It may still get closer, you know, or it may just be further offshore for all we know, you know? So, I want to be transparent. I want to be honest with you guys, but I have to do my job the right way. And unfortunately, the only way to get the message across to people is to polish up my thumbnails and titles a little bit, you know? We are on YouTube, one of a kind, and we are all unique together as a weather community. Everyone makes their thumbnails different. I have my style. Weatherman Plus has his style. Pat's Path Predictor has his own style. Ryan Hall, y'all, Max Velocity have their own styles. You know, we all have our own style, and that's what sets us apart as being unique out there. So everyone loves you. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. I just honestly, every time I upload a video, and I'm speaking from my heart on this, I feel very guilty when I make thumbnails the way I do. I am being so honest with you guys. And Easy could speak on the behalf on me on this, huh, Easy? If he's there. Hello, Easy. Of course, he's deafened. All right. So, yeah. I just want the truth. Yeah. And I'm being as honest as I can. It is hard to be honest being a forecaster when you're dealing with a hurricane that could wobble around. It can go further west one day, then it could go further east one day. It can slow down, speed up, you know. Thank you so much, Craig. I really do. You guys are awesome tonight. You guys are very loving and awesome. How does the eye look now on satellite? There is not much of an eye on this because, again, that vertical wind shear that we talked about, it's very, in fact, you can see some of the clouds kind of going inward like this towards the center. Some of the cirrus filaments actually tell us that there is, okay, Easy's back. Hello, Easy.
Hello.
All right, yeah, you deafened yourself, so I thought you couldn't ever hear me, so I left.
Oh, no, I have to go use the bathroom real quick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was talking to them, Easy, about my thumbnails, and I feel guilty. And I'm being honest with you, huh, Easy, about that. I do feel guilty about it, but I have to do...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You have to do what you have to do sometimes.
Yeah. Because at this point, everyone does it. Probably you guys could count on how many other YouTubers do the same thing. Like, I mean, first, I'll be honest. It started with Ryan Hall, y'all, and then everyone saw what he was doing, and then everyone started doing kind of the big text, the words and stuff. I know it is unfortunate, but that's just how the community is now. And actually, that's a good thing because that means whatever a YouTuber is doing is actually working. It actually is. Thank you. I'm glad you really guys like the 3D so much. I actually like this. I actually do. You can even see it right here near the Bahamas. Look at some of the clouds. Some of the cooler cloud tops are moving in. It's like little mountains, doesn't it? Looks like little mountains and valleys moving along. I like the color too. Very nice, good color. Yeah, it does tell a story in 3D, yeah. It would be so cool. You guys, you know what would be so cool is if they had 3D clouds on this. So like you could actually see the clouds moving like in a simulation kind of thing. That would be so cool. That would be freaking thick if they actually had that. It's like lava bubbling. Yeah. Except it's not as aggressive as it was a few nights ago. 3D thumbnails? Well, my thumbnails are kind of 3D dimensional with the beveled. You know, if you've noticed, I beveled my my highlighting areas. That sets me apart from other YouTubers, and that's actually the style that I like. So that's what I'm going to be using more in my winter forecasts with my maps and stuff, is I'm going to set that apart from other people because I want to be unique, you know? If you would have to guess, is going to head more west. I think we're pretty much locked in with the forecast right now that it is going to safely pass offshore. Well, I shouldn't say safely now, but that the center, it being the worst in this case, the worst is actually further out from the center, and the center is not much stronger because of that wind field is expanding. And that is why, you guys, we have a tropical storm watch out for these areas. You know, damage to porches, awnings, carports, shades, and unanchored mobile homes, unsecured lightweight objects blown about is what we're dealing with here. Kathleen, thank you for the $5 donation, sweetheart. I do appreciate it so much. So yeah, storm surge. Wait, was that a warning? Storm surge. Yeah, so storm surge. Yeah, storm surge problems too with this. To keep in mind, and again, this is all coming from the term. I want to hear it. Fish storm. Yeah, it's a fish storm, but it's a very large fish storm. Now, if this was like a category 3 and it had a very compact wind field and it was just far offshore, I would not be even as concerned about this. But the reason why we're talking about this little monster or large monster over here is because of its wind field. Trying to break a record over here being the biggest wind field possible. We'll see if that actually happens in post-analysis. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Dragon Survival of New York, for the $2 and $5 donations. I appreciate that very much. Very much. And again, all of these donations will go towards that equipment. Hotspot, a very powerful hotspot that could survive the signal with very intense hurricanes. I have a bad feeling this thing is going to go Cat 5 again. No, it's not going to go Cat 5. And the reason why I don't see this going Cat 5 again is because it's large wind field. When you have a large wind field like this, let's look at the map again, is the conservational of angular momentum is well spread out. Okay, so if you think about a ballerina dancer, she's spreading her arms way out. She's still spinning, but not as fast because all of that, though, that momentum is being spread out. And so once a hurricane is this big in its wind field, it's very surprisingly hard to get rapid intensification. Smaller hurricanes like Milton, Dorian was relatively small, more average size with its wind field. Thank you again, Logan. And thank you again, Insured of Fames, for the $5 and $2 donations. I do appreciate that. I'll read your guys' super chats here in a second. Rapid intensification is actually less likely if a wind field is much larger. Now, if this thing was very compact still, then I would be like very concerned that, oh gosh, this thing could go to Cat 5 again. But it's not going to be able to because of its large wind field. Yeah, we could see some re-strengthening, but maybe plus or minus 5 or so miles an hour. So maybe we get up to Cat 4 again because we're only going to weaken down to 120. And we end up being 130 again. Probably the strongest this thing gets is about 125 where it's at right now. Maybe an additional 5 or so miles an hour, maybe up to 130, but I just don't think it's going to do much now. This has been a very tricky system, nonetheless, to track thus far. I remember a couple of days ago, I said, oh, this is going to really intensify pretty quickly on the other side. It has not done that, which is good because we don't need this to be even stronger than it already is. Because the stronger this this beast gets, the more problems it's going to cause. It's already strong enough as it is. I mean, this wind field is pretty significant.
David, I didn't interrupt you, but I came across an article that I felt was actually pretty crazy, that the rip currents have already reached North Carolina, and apparently today alone in Wilmington Beach, there has been 75 different rescues because of the rip currents.
Are you kidding me? No.
Yep.
Wow, dude. Wow. There you go, folks. All about not so big waves. Well, the waves are kind of big, but wow, they're only going to get a lot worse from here. And we're 75 water rescues already. Yep. 75 water rescues. And I'm telling you, it's not even close. The storm's not even close yet. And it's already causing water rescues. So, yeah. Or 50 rescues at Wrightsville Beach was from the article I read. Okay, 50 water rescues. I already know there are mandatory evacuations along the Cape Hatteras coast. So if you are under a mandatory evacuation, you need to evacuate tonight. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but yes, this is going to be a big storm. And again, the wind field beats anything. What's up, Matthew? Not my brother, Matthew. Except my brother's name is Matthew. So, hey, Matthew. Yeah, Matthew, I was emphasizing the wind field with this thing. This wind field, Matthew, is probably going to be some of the biggest I have seen since Sandy. Perhaps since Sandy. And that is why I'm live streaming on this tonight. Literally, I know the center is going to be offshore, but still, this is going to be causing impacts. And we already have had 50 water rescues. Now, look at all that purple on your screen. Yeah, look at it from a recon perspective over here. Recon is painting a really pretty purple pink picture for us tonight with its data. Deep South won't stop people. Well, this is not impacting the Deep South. This is impacting the Eastern Seaboard. I take any tip. Remote drifter. I can take a donation from 99 cents all the way up to the maximum that YouTube allows people to donate. I think it's like $500 is the highest you can go. Let me check on that actually. Super chat. I think it's like, yeah, it's $500 the maximum. Or I don't think you could go any more than, yeah, you can't go. Oh, wait, you can go higher, right? Oh, no, you can't. I don't think you can. Thank you for the $2 donation. Easy. Someone's asking you a question.
What was it?
Who was that? Ken. Yeah, it was Ken Masterson. Easy. Where did you say all those rescues were?
It was Wilmington Beach.
Yeah. Wilmington.
And Wrightsville Beach.
And yeah, Wrightsville Beach. How is Erin gonna affect the ridging? Well, it's pretty much straightforward right now. We know where this is going. It's going north-northwest right now. Well, it's going northwest, it's gonna turn north over the next couple of days. The ridge is not building in time to nudge this further to the west. I just don't see that happening. All right, at least based on what I see. Based on what I see, I don't see this getting any further west. If any further west, it's going to only be a mere 2 or 3 miles. And that with a big system isn't going to really matter a whole lot because, again, with its wind field, and I wanted to show you guys something. But again, Kathleen, thank you for the $2 donation again. So let's go and zoom in on the halves A one more time. So as you know, all right, and our pin disappeared. There we go. Our center is right here, right? That's where our eye is. Okay, there's no land here because this wind field is so dang big and the land is not being captured very much. So imagining if you guys were under this purple, okay, and then you were closer to the center and you were still under this dark purple, it would not make much of a difference. It really wouldn't. In fact, if we look at surface winds here, you would still see near tropical storm force sustain, well over into tropical storm force winds with hurricane force, wind gusts for sure. But most of the wind energy, somewhat compact in nature, would be to the north and northeast because that's where the storm is moving towards. So when you have a storm motion that is doing this, so I'm going to draw arrows. So this is where our storm is moving to. The strongest wind is going to be always to the right of the storm motion, not to the left. So you can think about, to make up that kinetic energy, the wind actually has to accelerate and make it up so it's able to circulate evenly around the center of lower pressure on the other side. That is why if you are on a if you're on a teacup ride, you know, when you're on a teacup ride and you see people spinning, or on the centrifuge ride at Great America, you will see people going like this. You know, they'll spin like this. Well, the reason why they're spinning further outward, so when you go back, it's hard to explain. It's almost like that concept. Always to the right of the storm motion, strongest winds occur, not to the left. I know there's a lot of scientific things that I do know about with hurricanes. That is how downright smart I am here. Yeah, you guys are probably like, holy cow, he knows a lot. It's like, whoa, boy, this guy could almost be a meteorologist. I could technically be, you know. All right, it is 10:30 almost. You are the hurricane expert, sir. I am the hurricane expert over here. I will have to be honest, not like Noah, like the NHC people. They're the experts. They are like top-notch golden retriever people over there. I mean, they actually fly into these hurricanes. They actually kind of unlock the code to hurricanes. Not me. I'm the expert to a certain extent, but I cannot like make a paint of myself and like, oh, I am the best out there. Because then again, that's defaming other local agencies or government agencies. And I have to respect the NHC on that part because they're the experts. They are like #1 in the United States. I feel like it's going to be a rough season. Yes. Erica could very well end up being that way. I think it's going to happen. Especially the middle to the end of the first week of September, I think is when things are going to kick back into action. We are going to go into this lull phase and people are like, oh, it's quiet now in early September. Should we be seeing a lot of activity? The MJO, convective coupled Kelvin wave activity, have a lot to do with it. And right now, as we look at our MJO forecast, which I will probably be talking a little bit more about it in my video tomorrow, the MJO across most models now looks like it's going to de-amplify and go all the way back into phase 1, which is generally not ideal for the Atlantic. If it goes back into phase 1, it's going to need to be in phase 2 and 3 and 4 again for it to kind of get busy. But the fact it's not doing this whole revolution way out here, it takes longer for that to happen. So that's why now there's a lot of uncertainty on whether or not will we get any activity into late August or early September because of where the MJO is actually going to be headed. Some members actually indicate that it could go into phase 8 later on in the period, while others are saying it's going to go back into phase 1 again, which most of the ensemble members do agree with. You can see most of them are kind of filled in through here, which would favor pretty much the Central Pacific. And then it would go all the way back into the Atlantic. So I don't expect some elevated activity. Okay, we will probably get these lemons on the NHC like we're seeing here. Let's go back and look at that. Oh, okay. It's going to be over here. So it's going to be something that looks kind of like this. Some threatening development. This is probably going to end up doing something. Okay, it has a lot of water time. It has a long way to go. This little guy is probably not going to be able to get jump started because of the sinking phase of Rossby wave activity. In fact, if we do go and look at, I don't even have it here, but take my word for it. We'll have a sinking convective coupled Kelvin wave over here later on in August and early September. So I don't believe we're going to see, again, elevated activity. We'll probably end up, again, threatening yellow areas here. They try to develop, they try to get their act together, but they just can't get going because the background state is too stable, rather hostile with some vertical wind shear. Now, of course, when that ends up happening, people are going to be posting on social media as well as on their YouTube channel that this is highly unusual for it to be very stable. All right. Just because we have a very busy September does not mean we're going to see 5 or 6 named storms a week. No, not going to happen. We'll probably end up seeing at least 1 or 2 named storms per week, which adds up to 4, 6, 8. Maybe 8 to 9 named storms in September. All right. That's pretty dang busy if you ask me. That really is. Given where we're at right now with ace points, and speaking of ace really quickly, I did not want to forget about this, is climatology. We go to here, ace graphs. Yeah, this is where the Atlantic is already. And this is, I haven't said much about this, but this is basically your quality over quantity. Okay, I get it. We have had 5 named storms. We're slightly ahead of schedule. If you look at the number of named storms, I understand, but it comes down to ace score, how much accumulated cyclone energy there has been so far. And I'll tell you what, right now, Erin is pulling off a big one with the amount of ace that we have had so far right now. And we are in the top 16 now of busy seasons. And if you think about that very hard, we're only behind 2020 just by a mere margin, only behind by 2 ace points. So if you think about this and look at 2020, we all know that was a very big hurricane season in terms of number of named storms, but only gave us 180 ace points. It was pretty up there, pretty high. Okay. But look at, we're only 2 points away from that. So we are almost as busy as we were in 2020, if that makes sense. Right? Then you're going to probably say, oh, okay, yeah, it has been really busy, relatively speaking, in terms of ACE. Now, in terms of named storms, let's look at the climate predictions or National Hurricane Center on that. They do have a climatology page, and this is our averages for the Atlantic hurricane season. So we don't get to our 5th named storm until what day? What day of the month? What day of the month? August 22nd, correct? When do we see our first hurricane on average? Right? Our first hurricane, oh wait, in named storms, yeah, so that's correct. Our first hurricane doesn't form until August 11th. We already gotten our first hurricane. That was Erin, okay? Slightly behind, but pretty much on average. Then our second hurricane doesn't usually form until the 26th of August, which we might have that, right? If the GFS ends up being correct, here is August 26th, right about in here. That's a small hurricane, right? So we are performing as we should for a season. And our first major hurricane doesn't even form until September 1st. And guess what? We have had our first major hurricane well before September 1st. So got to put this in the back of your head that, yeah, it might seem slow, but we're actually performing quite normal, if not slightly above normal with our number of named storms. That's why I upped my forecast for this hurricane season. Now I'm predicting 11 to 17 named storms. So, yeah. And typically, the season only averages three major hurricanes and seven hurricanes typically. So keep that in mind, that we are on par. We are on par. It doesn't seem like it because people get wrapped behind their heads with, oh, it's all about the number of named storms. I'll tell you, 2005 it's not going to happen. We're not going to see a 2005. We're not going to see some of the worst but most busiest hurricane seasons ever on record. It's somewhat too late for that. However, I could be wrong, but that does not look likely. That does not look likely. Even so, now here's a little bit of a interesting part. Look at 1956 up here. Whoa, 32 ace points. Good. Wow, that, well above average for this time of the year. But that year ended up with very little ace, only 56 ace points. So sometimes you can just start really late and make it all up in a month or in a month and a half, like we saw here in 1968. Oh, no, wait, no. 1989, 20 ace points, only 4 points below, and yet it came out to 134, which was about a teeny bit above average. So I'm confident this year that we are going to have the rest of the season's going to end up being busy because of how warm our waters are, which again, I haven't talked much about this because I've been focusing on Erin, but I'll tell you, look at how warm the waters are out there in the Atlantic. Especially, I cannot say this enough, Western Atlantic and also the deep tropics here of the Caribbean, well above where we should be for this time of the year. Okay, and so maybe we get a lot of fish storms early on in the season, but maybe in September we get a lot of these storms that come and cut through the Caribbean and get into the Gulf. Remember Ian and remember Milton, they were really rather late systems in the second half of September and early October. Just like we can say that Beryl last year, we all thought, oh, last year was going to be a hyperactive season, right? Because we had Beryl, the earliest Cat 5 hurricane. Well, we thought at the time that, oh, it is going to be a very busy season, but fortunately, it did not end up as busy as what we were thinking. Some forecast agencies were spitting out 25 to 35 named storms out there, which was pretty outrageous. So how will Erin impact the ridge? So you probably are referring to the ridge that helps guide the other storms. So right now, that system is going to be absorbed into that trough gradually, and that's going to allow this ridge to build a little bit further to the west. But then the problem here is you have another trough that's going to be in place, helping to guide this other second system out to sea. We've been in this stubborn pattern where we have had a lot of ridginess out over here in the mid-Atlantic, like we are pretty much kind of seeing right now, and that's helping to guide our system to the north. And that looks like that's going to stick around for a while, it looks like. Yeah. Was that a hurricane that I just spotted on the map? You better be kidding me. GFS added again. So there goes that system. And of course, GFS, you're on a hype squad. You're on a hype squad. Yeah, see, that's fantasy. It's not going to happen. Sorry. Sorry, GFS. Do not trust you with any Central American gyre mischief or any vorticity coming off the ABC Islands. You can kind of disregard that. There's not going to be a system. There's not going to be a system. However, it is early September, so that is worth watching. Actually, it's probably more believable than it were if it was like May or June. But man, this is a really, really stable atmosphere right here. Look how stable this is back in here throughout the MDR. Your surface pressures down here are in the 1020 millibar range, and that really tells us there is a lot of sinking air over there in the Atlantic. Yeah, look at this. This is quite a bit of sinking air. But I definitely do believe once we get into at least the first or second week of September, I think things are going to light up in the Atlantic even more significantly than what we had now. So I just want you guys to understand that, you know, even if it's a fish storm, mind the wind field before you declare it as, oh, it's a fish storm, it's going to be a nothing burger or whatever. Because if a lot of you have been following me for the last 3 years, and you know me too well that I don't hype up very much unless it needs to be. And you see a tropical storm watch, so that should get you to wake up and be like, oh, we're under a tropical storm watch. Oh, gosh. Okay. And yet, the thing is not making landfall. It's a life lesson learned, you know? APHIS came out. Let's see what the APHIS shows. Just a general rundown on our models. Yep. APHIS is out to sea. And then there's nothing. Yeah, look how stable this pattern is. Woo! Too stable. Too stable. Wow. Yeah. If the APHIS comes to... Sorry, I keep on clicking my freaking whiteboard. If the APHIS comes to pass, wow, that is really stable. Really stable out there in the Atlantic. And how you know it's stable is, look at what our winds are doing. The winds are doing this. Lots of dry air pouring in from higher latitudes. You got your West African monsoon is not extending itself as far offshore. So you're not seeing westerly wind anomalies over here very much. And that seems to be quite true with our GFS model. Really suppressive phase coming through. But that's not to say that maybe we start looking over here in early to mid-September and then things just kind of propagate this way over the course of September. But usually by the second half of September, we start slowly looking towards Central America, the Gulf, the Caribbean, the far western Atlantic for Central American gyre mischief. And with waters that are much warmer now, as they always are this time of the year, that usually leads to higher chances of development. But yeah, if you guys absolutely do enjoy my tropical weather update videos as well as my live stream discussions on the tropics to decode some stuff like we did tonight, as well as, you know, when we go live on a hurricane or a tropical storm when it makes landfall, or if it makes landfall this year, we will be live up to at least, in extreme rare cases, 2 straight days. 2 straight days. That is 4 separate parts of a live stream. 4 parts to 2 days that we would be doing. So, yeah. Share, like, and subscribe. It really does help out a lot. So things should calm on the East Coast after Erin. Yes and no. There's that one tropical wave that we're watching. I want to be careful with what I say here. There is one more wave that we are watching off of Africa. I do see that developing to some extent, but where it develops and what parts of the United States get impacted by this wave once it glides up this way will be something we will need to watch closely because it hasn't even developed yet. But after that, things look a teeny bit less favorable. I'm not saying entirely hostile because there is a mixed signal based on our MJO, but in general, there seems to be a bit of a signal or noise on our ensembles that would suggest that things might tinker down a little bit. Probably not entirely. We might get a sneaky system here and there, left and right, but I don't see anything like what we are dealing with now with Erin and then a couple of waves coming off of Africa, because the MJO is going to be slowly propagating. And if it de-amplifies and there's not much organization, then it would be up to climatology along to go with any passing of convective coupled Kelvin waves to kick up activity. But right now, things look to simmer down a bit. They, at least in my books, I see that. After, I want to be clear, after our tropical wave right here, one storm at a time. But that's not to say that we do see a sneaky system. Like, for an example, if we just took the GFS seriously, let's pretend we took the GFS seriously, we can see pop-up storms over here in the Gulf, off the coast of the eastern US, or in the Caribbean. May not be so much out here. So that's something to consider too. But right now, anything beyond 10 days, the GFS likes to be bogus, likes to scare people, and throw a storm in there in the next couple of model runs. I don't understand it. GFS is being the GFS. But it is early September, so that is worth watching. That really is. Yep, there it is. 954 millibar system right now in its last pass. Yep. There it is. So we were 948, 950, 952, 954. So the pressure continues to go up. So, but yeah, thank you for that, Blushful, for the $5 donation. I appreciate it. Boy, we made $150 in donations tonight. So thank you guys for that. I didn't want to sound like I was forcing you guys. I was not forcing you guys. It's from your heart, from your will, you know. So thank you guys. It's weakening, someone said. Not going to repeat myself. Not going to repeat myself. That's all I got to say. I said it enough. I said it enough. Weakening is not a saving grace. It is not a saving grace. It is weakening down to 120 miles an hour now. Let's take a look. It's not out on my end, so evidently, let's see. Let's take a look though, really quickly. Maybe that's what you were referring to, weakening. Yeah, it is down 120. That is to be expected. All right. That is to be expected. NHC did predict this. Low in category, well, almost a low in category 3. But I do expect that it is going to strengthen a little bit more. If we look at their forecast, they did expect that. Okay. It's down in here. Happening a little faster though. So maybe this does get down to 115 in 12 to 24 hours, but then re-strengthening into 125 mile an hour storm would be expected. Now, if this does end up being a category 1 or 2, I will do another update on this again tomorrow. And then we'll talk more, of course, about those tropical waves coming off of Africa. David, you need to check the NAM 30 kilometer immediately. Oh gosh, don't you dare tell me it's throwing up pressure. Let's look at the pressure. Okay, yuck, 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 yuck. No, 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 nah. Not in my ballpark. It's going to be an 870 millibar system. No. No. It's not going to be an 870 millibar system. And why in the heck are you even looking at the NAM? I'm going to look at it for myself, just to see. Come on, dude. That is not going to happen. Literally. It is not going to happen. Yeah, okay. If that happens, Johnny, I'll send you $500. Literally, I'll send you $500 if that actually happens. However, though, let's be a little clear here. Let's be a little clear. Wind shear is going to be decreasing, but I just don't think it's gonna, it's not going to be this expansive. Like, the wind field is too big to allow something to just go off the deep end. Not going to happen. And this is a way people can be posting crap on X as well and say, oh, there's an 870 millibar system. Yeah, that's the NAM. The NAM model is not trained in the tropics. It is not a hurricane-specific model. It is not a hurricane-specific model, people. Please understand that, including you, John. Use your HWRF, HMON, halves A, halves B models. They are the hurricane models that you need to look at. They are trained in the convective mechanisms behind hurricanes. Unlike NAM, will just straight up throw out random numbers over here like an 870 millibar system. All right. Now, if that did happen, I will tell you what, right now, if that happened, Me and Easy will be streaming live on that. Okay. We would be streaming live all night. Even before it even hits land. But yeah, Johnny, it's not going to be an 870 millibar system. Please. All right. This is going to be a good way to not rely on the NAM model. I think the NAM model is actually retiring next year because it just does not do as good as it used to, if I recall. Yeah, see now, Johnny, you got people scared over here in the chat. Icon does show a 919 millibar. Yeah, talk about me hyping things up. Some people over here are doing literally what I don't like to do. So the icon, I'll tell you this right now, the icon with intensity cannot be fully relied on. Secondly, the NAM model cannot be relied on as far as intensity. Again, this Hurricane is too big. The wind field is way too big. Now, if this was compact, like really compact, like it was just 2 days ago, then I could be like, oh, we got to really keep an eye on these other models. But I would not feel comfortable you guys looking at the NAM on a Hurricane because the NAM is not Hurricane specific. Which means North American meso model. Yeah, see, Tevin believes, Tevin agrees with me. Because I'll tell you, if we saw an 870 millibar system in the Atlantic, it would be almost an all-time record crusher. Okay. I think Typhoon Tip was like 870 or 869 millibars. Patricia was down in that realm under 900 millibars. Where's my 2 a.m. update? So the 2 a.m. update is here on the National Hurricane Center right now. Winds are at 120 miles per hour. You can see it right there. It's fine, Johnny. Just be careful, all right? That was good, though, that you told me that, because then we can clear up that part, because people will probably be posting about that on social media and be like, oh, there's an 870 millibar system to the northeast of the Bahamas, you know? And that causes fear-mongering. And let me ask you guys this question. Have I ever, okay, other than tonight's live stream, have I ever in my videos or live streams, except for tonight, you guys can excuse me for that one, do I ever use the NAM 3-kilometer model in my videos? Ever? See if you guys could answer that one. Someone is saying. And if you guys say no, that's the correct answer. Yeah, it's a meme storm, right? Someone's going to be posting images about that. But again, do not trust the NAM. Actually, you know what? I'm probably going to make a post on this. And I'm going to put like an X on it. You know, I'm going to have like 4 different pictures I'm going to make. And one of them is going to have a check mark on it. And the rest are going to have X's or whatever, okay? And this is what to use and what to not use for short-term forecasting. And yes, you guys are probably going to tell me that, oh, David, though, the European, though, had a 904 millibar before. Remember, I'm going to be like, okay, that was one model run. And it's not going to happen now because look at the 0Z. Oh, the 0Z is back in with a lower pressure again. Okay. God. Why is I don't understand that. Actually, you know what? It's not going to get as deep as the NAM, but that is a deep low on the European model. That's a 917 millibar system on the 0Z Euro tonight. I don't understand why it thinks the NAM, the icon model is showing it. How? Just explain. With a system that is so disheveled, I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. It is assuming that it's 950 millibars, 952. So it is taking into consideration that the system does not intensify much until past the 18-hour mark, which the NHC does explicitly show it's going to intensify. Yeah, I showed the 2 a.m. update. So it is going to be very interesting. It is going through some very warm water, but I just don't, my guts tell me it's not going to do much. It's not going to strengthen that much. I just don't think so. Because that is absolutely intense. That's a Cat 5 hurricane right there. Actually, with its large wind field, it would be a Cat 4, probably a high-end Cat 4 at least. Yeah, the Euro wants a 140 mile an hour system with wind gusts over 190 miles an hour. Like, yo, Euro over here being the more conservative one, I just don't think it's going to come true. I just don't believe it. The GFS model is more realistic in this sense with its pressure. It's really a little too weak, but it does show some re-strengthening on the other side. Well, actually, it's not even realistic at all. No. Showing a 970 millibar in 9 hours. That's not going to happen. So let me ask you this question, folks. What model do you guys believe in? Because the Euro is a little too deep. I really think the Euro is a little too deep with its pressure. I'm taking this seriously, but like, man, 916 on the Euro, you have to be kidding me. Can you show us live satellite imagery? Maybe that will help you guys out a little bit more. What's up, CG Priest? How are you doing? Everyone, let's believe the NAM. Well, believe what model you want to believe, but that is not a good idea. That's not a good idea. But of course, free country. You guys could believe whatever you want. I can't say anything. But I'm just going to say that I think it's a little much. I think it's a little much that some people will still believe the fantasy Euro model, which actually, wow, wants a 914 millibar system. A 914 millibar. Check this out. Like, oh my gosh. This will be a real test to the Euro. Is the Euro onto something? Because it's been trending stronger with the icon model. Holy cow, if we see a 914. I will literally punch holes in my wall and be like, how? How? No, I'm not going to punch walls in my wall. But like, that would be super intense. That would be absolutely intense. You know what? I mean, I'm not too surprised. Look at these wave heights actually along the coast here of Cape Hatteras. Maximum individual wave heights actually. Oh, wait, no, that's not the latest run. Yeah, the newest run hasn't come in yet. So sorry about that. But the fact that the Euro is showing it, though, that worries me. That starts scratching my head. Is it actually going to get that intense? And be sure enough, if it does, I will be streaming on it. Because this would be Wednesday morning, which actually is believable because it's D-max. It's considered D-max, and sea surface temperatures are in the upper 80s, about 87 to 88 degrees, close to 90 degrees. So it is feasible. But with a large wind field like this, that really, I don't know. I just cannot understand. And this is the Euro model. Yeah, what about the AI model? There's no AI model for this, so let's go to... Let's go to the AI model. What does that show? The AI model wants about a 950 millibar system. The icon... Yeah, look at even the icon has backed down on how deep this actually gets. It gets to about 19 millibars at its deepest. But that is in realm with the Euro, though. Let me ask Easy this. So, Easy, what are your thoughts?
I don't think it's going to get that deep.
Exactly. I just don't believe it.
I think at the lowest, it'll be maybe a 930 again. That's the absolute lowest, though. I don't see it going anywhere below that.
All right. So now that brings me to this. Wind shear. Why is it going to be that strong? That doesn't make sense. So we have to look at that vertical wind shear. So vertical wind shear does taper off. Yeah, so vertical wind shear might end up tapering off. A little bit more. So vertical wind shear is going to decrease. But to how much of a decreasement will that shear get? The Euro does simulate this very good, though. Very asymmetrical moisture field on this. And then it does get very symmetrical again. Yeah, see, it is asymmetrical, but it does quickly recover in about 18 hours. And it is very far south still. It's south of 25 north latitude. So in theory, it could go for another 5, a high-end 4 or 5. Oh, no, a high-end or a low to mid-grade 4, but I don't know. I just don't know. That whole pocket, though, is very moist in the deep layer, without a doubt. But man, that is a very, very intense system. Wow, that is very strong. And see, the fact it doesn't have an eye with it really makes things very interesting. I am really, really, really skittish on that one. Are we sure it can't make landfall? I am very confident it's not going to make landfall. But let me see here with the wind field really quickly if this actually shifted further west. Yep, it sure did. It sure did trend a little west. Yep. Still shifting west by a little bit. So your wind gusts now in Cape Hatteras went from 60 to now 66 miles an hour. Close to 70 now. Yeah, it's still shifting a little bit to the west. This does continue, man. It is gonna make a very close call. I'm gonna need to watch. We're gonna need to watch this for a while, though, for sure. Really closely. For like, not for a while. I meant for like a few days at least. Just by a teeny bit. Fear comes when you're unpredictable. Erin is a force to be reckoned with. All you can do is prep. Well, yeah, but this system has a tricky path. But, I mean, I'm going to need to wait for hurricane. Let's see what the hurricane models are showing in the first place. Because I mean, look at this. Yeah. Doesn't make logical sense. A lot of the models show weakening. Not any model shows strengthening with this, like the Euro is showing. In fact, some of the models still want this to be a 5. Huge outliers. So, without continuing to discuss more about this, I just don't think it's going to be a high in Cat 4 with a pressure of 9, 14 millibars like the on WeatherBell or weathermodels.com is showing. I mean, no. From the Euro, that's embarrassing too that the Euro would be showing that. The European model. But if it happens, I'll be shocked. But anyways, if you all have enjoyed this discussion, if you guys like my videos, we're going to have to talk more about this tomorrow in a video. So I'll be making another video. If needed, we will be going live again tomorrow as well. So same old thing where I upload early on in the day. Then we'll do another live stream if needed tomorrow night, just depending on our model trends. But if you are new and you haven't been here before and you like these updates, you like the interaction, you like my videos, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. You guys are awesome. Love you guys a lot. Keep you guys very much safe here on the YouTube channel. That's the whole point of this, to save people's lives, to be weather aware all season long, as well as just hanging out with you guys, talking to you guys, getting to know you guys. So with that further ado, I don't have much to add. Do you have any more to add, Easy?
No, I think you covered it all.
Sweet. But anyways, share, like, and subscribe, folks. And we will be back actually today for a lot of you in the East Coast. I'll be back on today to keep you guys updated to keep you guys updated here. But I want to, before I do go, one last thing is, if you guys see my thumbnails and you say I'm clickbaiting, please think twice. The thumbnail and title speak one thing. What is actually in the video speaks another. All right. Peace out, folks. Be safe. Be back with you guys later on today. Peace out.